Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of The Mandalorian, Chapter 23, The Spies. And this was a really good episode and tied the whole season together a lot better than I thought it would. Now granted, I don't like there's a lot of screwing around and everything that was going on, but everything kind of worked out together to bring us to a point where we're like, okay, now we kind of have an understanding of what was going on and how we're kind of tying things together. So we'll kind of have to see. I usually don't like it going around where you have to wait so long, especially in a very short episode kind of order to go with. But I did really like this episode, and it moved us forward in very good kind of ways. So we see Kane that we'd seen from the Imperial program on Coruscant. So she's going around and she finds an Imperial probe droid. And evidently it's sent by Moff Gideon, and she's talking about how what went on Navarro. And Gideon's like, I thought the New Republic wasn't supposed to send help. It wasn't the New Republic, it was Mandalorians. He's like, damn it, so I'm going to have to deal with this shit. And it's like, okay, she is an Imperial spy in the New Republic, and that's bound to happen. That makes sense that with the disillusion and the breaking up of the Empire, there would be factions that would try to infiltrate the New Republic and essentially do kind of what Palpatine again did in the beginning, infiltrating and changing it up for their own kind of ends. So we shift over to Gideon. We see him doing this kind of cool kind of thing that's kind of reminiscent of the energy gates that we had seen in the Phantom Menace. But we see stormtroopers in different kind of armor that we do get an explanation for in this episode too. But he walks in and we are introduced to the Imperial Shadow Council, which we essentially have like the Imperial warlords and remnants ruling from the shadows, doing their own kind of things. And this was actually a pretty cool kind of thing. We get introduced to Commandant Hux, the Hux that we had seen from the sequel trilogy's father. We are introduced to Pelion, who, granted, I read a lot of the, what is now Legends, the Expanded Universe, and Pelion was always an interesting kind of character, and he's more linked up with Thrawn and talking about how Thrawn is going to come again and reform the Imperial military aspect. And you definitely get a sense that these people definitely need a leader. They don't mind doing things their own way, but since they don't have that kind of one focus kind of person to direct them, they kind of do their own kind of stuff. We get this one lady saying that there are so many people on so many New Republic worlds that are crying out for the Empire. It's like, there could be some, but not as many as you think, you crazy ass lady. Fuck you. It's like, no, they've done horrible things. And this one dude's like, the hyperspace lanes, they're ripe for being pretty much plundered and everything. And Pelion's like, you gotta watch out, you're drawing too much attention. It's like do certain kind of things, but you're fucking bringing attention to yourself, bro. And that Hux is evidently linked up with Project Necromancer, probably linked up with doing stuff with like Palpatine and everything. Gideon's like, you're all kind of falling to like squabbling and everything. Let's kind of refocus and get rid of the Mandalorians. And the purge was not successful. Let's kind of finish that out. It's like, oh shit, he's really kind of getting them honed in on that kind of aspect. So we'll kind of have to see what goes on with that. Now, we do get checked back in with Moff Gideon later, but we'll get to that eventually. So we get back to Navarro, and that was part of their plan with the pirates as well, kind of sowing discord within the New Republic. Very kind of typical for the Imperial remnants to kind of do that. Trying to destabilize the new fledgling government to then come back in and reassert their kind of control. That's their typical kind of tactics, and I don't mind that that's being utilized pretty effectively here. I do like that tying in. And then we see that the protocol droids going like, High Magistrate, we've got like an Imperial shuttle coming in. It's like, that's a light cruiser, man. And that's not Imperial, that's Mandalorian, as we see the pretty much Mythosaur painted on the cruiser for the fleet, as they then drop in Bo-Katan bringing the other Mandos. We see the kind of tension between the Children of the Watch and the Mandalorians that take their helmets off, and we see that the armor kind of clings and be like, you brought the rest here, let's have a feast and everything. It's kind of a little bit weird and awkward because the ones that take their helmets off can eat, but the ones that can't are like, mm-hmm. And then we see the Bo-Katan comes in. She says, Mandalore is not cursed. I want to set a party so we can retake and resettle. And I think we needed this to happen a little bit longer because they saved Navarro and they pretty much get their kind of place, and then they're already going off to go take Mandalore. It works from this perspective of we've got to continue going on, but it's still a little bit faster paced than I would have liked. I thought that they would, I don't know, gather some more Mandalorians. Maybe even look into what was going on with Moff Gideon and how how there was Beskar alloy in the shuttle. We actually do get an answer to that, and it was not a route that I was expecting. So, Bo-Katan asks for volunteers. We, of course, get some of the group from the normal. Din, of course, starts off first saying that he'll go with her, and Grogu will as well, and all that kind of thing. And we then get a good, pretty group as they're pretty much getting ready to do that. We do see that Karga did come, gave a thank you gift to Din, this kind of nice alcohol, and then he's like, I also have something else to kind of show you. And was it before or after? Well, we see that we are then introduced to let me see here, IG-12, where the little guys pretty much just took out the memory thing and essentially made him into a walking mech. And I think this was an interesting answer for Grogu. I mean, I love seeing him kind of like walk around and everything, but he does move at a slower kind of pace. And Karga is just like, hey, yeah, you can let Grogu pretty much pilot it. And Din's like, I don't know about that. That's going to introduce some trouble. And he's like, oh, let's just do this. And they put him in. And he's like, he's too young to operate heavy machinery. And then he's like, no. And it's like, it can only do yes and no at this point. And he's like walking around going, yes. It's like, oh god. It's essentially Din's terrible twos with him, where I do like that Grogu's trying to assert kind of control and allow him some more agency as a character. And this was an interesting way to call back with IG-11 without just being like, hey, it's nostalgia and everything like that. It works on a practical level to let Grogu walk around more, have more agency, do things. Like, of course, and also when one of the little guys was like, he's like, no, baby, no squeeze me, he's like, ah, and then because he was eating his snacks and everything, and then he's using the IG-12 to walk around, and then they're walking through Navarro, and he just like starts going for these snacks. He's like, Grogu, we have to pay for that, and he's doing all this kind of stuff. It's like, god dang it, Grogu, why are you being such a little terrible twos dude? It's like, yeah, because you're still a baby, and you're like in a heavy machinery kind of thing. Accidentally squeeze this stuff. Din's able to pay for it. He's like, oh god, this is going to be trouble. But it's funny. He toes the line between being... He doesn't act too harsh on him, but he isn't too lenient either. Like, Grogu understands that he kind of messed up a little bit, and then goes on and walks around with that. So we get the Mandos getting ready to go, and they just pretty much fly off. We get the Mandalore. They pretty much set up their stuff that Bo-Katan will take the group that volunteered for her, and they're going to go down, they're going to set up a perimeter, set up a base camp, so that way they can set on the rest of the people and see what's kind of going on. So they go down there, they're seeing what's going on. Axe Wolves talks about how he kind of was here and kind of what was going on as they're getting ready to be dropped down, and that's dropped down in a pretty nice, badass kind of way, and they're pretty much getting ready to pretty much set up camp, see what's kind of going on before they start seeing stuff coming at them in the distance. So they take up flanking maneuvers, and we see that there aren't just weird creatures and everything on the planet. There are Mandalorians on this planet as well, and they're loyal to Bo-Katan Kryze, as they pretty much say so. And then they kind of figure out what's kind of going on. They're like, we've been nomadic, we've always had believed in you, Lady Kryze, and we kind of see them, they're kind of screwed up. They've been like Mad Max kind of style going around on this kind of thing, and we then see them working kind of together and trying to figure out. Bo-Katan giving the information that I did surrender because these people were living on this planet thinking that like they just bombed us because they couldn't defeat us. We didn't surrender. And Bo-Katan's like, no, Moff Gideon came, gave terms, and I gave up the Darksaber and I surrendered, but they still bombed us anyway. And it's kind of a big shock to the surviving Mandalorians, but it gives us more information on how Bo-Katan how Moff Gideon got the Darksaber. And it's like, yeah, she thought that, given the information of what was going on, she tried to save her people. And it failed, though. But now she's going to try and help her people with this. And she understands that with everything going on, the Mandalorians have never been broken by an outside force. It's always been their internal divisions and everything that have screwed them over. And we see those internal divisions going on. I see Paz playing this kind of game with Ag's Wolves, and how they're playing by different kind of rules, and then they just start fighting each other. And Din asks, well, she was like, I was wondering when this was going to happen. And Din's like, do you want me to take care of this? And she's like, no, let him do it. And then, of course, Grogu's the one that stops him, and he's saying, no. And it's like, yeah, he understands, and he doesn't like the kind of fighting like that. He understands it to a certain extent, but he understands that it's getting to that kind of point where it could get really dangerous. And Bo-Katan comments that you've taught your apprentice well, which is interesting because he's apprenticing to be a Mandalorian. He's also learning the ways of the Jedi as well. I don't think that those two paths are inherently at odds, especially when the first Mandalore was a Jedi and a Mandalorian as well. Now, that's a little bit out of order, and then at night, after we hear Bo-Katan's story, Din actually goes up to her and talks to her about it and be like, listen, I know that we've got a lot of different kind of things, and we do a lot of different kind of ways, and they've got animosity towards us because we are splintering of, like, Death Watch and everything. But he does the creed to a certain thing, but he follows people that have honor, that have loyalty, and have character. And that he believes that her song is not yet written, and that he will serve her until it is. And it's really kind of cool to see him take on this kind of knight-like aspect to the leader that Bo-Katan is trying to get herself to be. And it's good that we see that she has doubts, that she understands she's made mistakes, but she's trying to do better. And I like that. I think that should have been more of the central kind of conceit and premise of this season going forward anyway. I think the execution of going around it is what's kind of mucked up, and especially when this show started out as being the foundation of Din and Grogu, that this kind of shifts a little bit weird, because it does involve Din and Grogu, but the focus is being more put on Bo-Katan and her trying to be this Mandalorian leader and trying to help her people. And I don't mind that, but there's a way that you have to handle it. It's not that it's not working. It's just, it took a while to get to the place where it would work pretty well, and you're like, what the hell's going on? It's like, oh, okay, now we kind of get it. So they're kind of flying around, they're trying to get to the Great Forge, and the thing is, there were people on the boat that needed medical attention, so the armor took them on the ship and took them back up to the fleet. Now at this point, I'm anxious because I'm thinking the fleet's going to be attacked by Moff Gideon's forces, and then the armor is going to get attacked by Moff Gideon's forces, but that doesn't happen. She notifies the people on the cruiser that she's bringing in wounded that need medical care, and goes on that way. As they're going to the Great Forge, they then see this giant great beast that is not the Mythosaur kind of attack their boat and destroy it, hurt and probably kill some of the Mandalorians, but they get inside and they're making their way to the Great Forge, this great symbol for Mandalorian culture. And Axwell sees it like, damn, we're here. What are we going to do now? Before they then are beset upon those stormtroopers that we saw. And the thing is, they're wearing Beskar armor. So Moff Gideon was not broken out by a rogue band of Mandalorians, but by Beskar armored stormtroopers of the Shadow Council. So it's like, holy shit. Okay, that makes sense, but we'll have to see if the New Republic understands that and will get wise to that fact. But the thing is, Kane is working within the New Republic to screw up what's going on there. So then we see this battle going on. We get some really kind of cool moves with, damn, I even forget, the lady that's pretty much like second in command with Axe Wolves. She does some kick-ass kind of stuff. Din does some, Bo-Katan, Paz, and the thing is, these stormtroopers aren't trained like Mandalorians. You might have given them one of the distinct advantages of Mandalore, but you didn't give them the fighting abilities. You just gave them the numbers. They're flying around, and we see some kind of cool moves, them getting choked out. We definitely see this in how the Mandalorians fight differently than the Stormtroopers, because the Stormtroopers are just blasting and kind of hitting armor. The Mandalorians find the weak spots in the armor, choking him out, shooting him in the throat and neck regions, in the exposed legs or whatnot. Again, one of my cool kind of things that I love with well done action scenes is actually showcasing the characters in how they fight. And this is a great example of that. There's a lot of great examples of that in this episode. This episode really tightens up and gets us to the this is what we were building to. It's like, okay, I kind of needed that a little bit before, because certain kind of things were like, I don't get how this is connected. Now, that doesn't mean I need to understand the connections right away, or that it needs to be spelled out right away. But if, say they did an episode where Grogu is stuck in a macaroon factory, I kind of need a little bit more kind of connection in that episode, that maybe at the end you see that it's being run by an Imperial of the Shadow Council who is trying to introduce highly addictive substances that would do Imperial mind control into the populace at the end, and then link that into the Shadow Council later on. That's just an example, okay? Which, go for it. Willy Wonka that motherfucking shit. So, they're getting attacked, they're kind of pushing through, and we see that Moff Gideon has essentially made his base here, and has been mining the Beskar, and has been taking what's been great of Mandalore. It's like, what the fuck? Because he wanted interceptors and bombers from the Shadow Councils to take out the rest of the Mandalorians, and he's pretty much setting upon to do this. We see that the Mandos are captured and split apart, and that Din is then captured by Moff Gideon as he comes down badass-like in Beskar Dark Trooper armor, and pretty much says to take him away, and then wants Bo-Katan to give him the Darksaber. He's like, and she's like, Grogu's like, oh god, Din, damn! And it's just crazy. He's just gloating, and pretty much the Empire takes the best of all these different kind of races and species and tries to utilize them to their best. He's like, yep, Beskar armor, doing all this kind of crazy stuff, and let's just do this. Let's see here. Because he's essentially offering her the same thing before, but she's learned. He's just going to kill them all, and screw that. Now, I thought that she was going to take the Darksaber and go and try and rescue Din, but she takes the more prudent path and decides to go to the back, gets cover as Moff Gideon decides to let his forces go after the Mandalorians, as she cuts a hole in the back and lets the rest of the Mandalorians and Grogu out, as Paz Vizsla decides to hold them off as the rear guard. Bo-Katan tries to then get him to come out. He's like, nah, there's too many of them. And then he closes the thing and starts pretty much taking out every motherfucker in there. Now, this was a great badass motherfucking moment for this dude, alright? Because he essentially uses his Gatling gun to the point where it's pretty much melted, and then he just fucking thundercracks motherfuckers just bare-ass hand style, taking out the stormtroopers, breaking one's fucking neck, and then pushing two off a fucking ledge. However, like all great things, we are shown the badassness of one dude to then get shown why there are other better people out there as well, as we are then introduced to the Praetorian Guard, which have Beskar and energy weapons, and he cannot take them down. And because of their weapons that they've gotten, the training, because stormtroopers, they don't have the best training as we've seen. These guys have better training. Now, granted, you'd be forgiven of thinking, these guys kind of sucked in The Last Jedi, but they're presented better here as Paz tries his best, but they start stabbing him in different kind of areas and take him all out, and he just dies there, and that's where the episode ends. And it sucks, but it was a great way to show him going out. He went out as a Mandalorian. He protected his friends and his comrades, and he gave them the time to escape. So even though he died, he won. Because Bo-Katan still has the Darksaber. She still has the information. She can go and try and warn the fleet, even though their only ship is gone. she will have to get very... She will have to create a very interesting plan to do this, and they've got to rescue Din. Like, Moff Gideon, of course, he was defeated by Din. What is he going to do to him? How's Grogu going to do this? Like, how is Grogu going to handle that? Is he going to go off on his own in IG-11 and then use the Force as much as possible? Could this potentially lead to him encountering the dark side of the Force because of the emotions he could feel that his father is captured by Moff Gideon? We'll have to see. There's a lot of interesting things that the end episode, the culminating finale, can lead to. I hope it leads to Bo-Katan rising to the challenge that Moff Gideon truly presents and defeating him handily because of her being defeated, of course, in the Night of the Thousand Tears, which is like the first purge of the purge of Mandalore that's present for this. And then now here with another defeat and the capturing of Din Djarin as well. It's tightened up the plot mightily and really is good, and I enjoyed it a lot. However, I don't like that we had to wait until the second to last episode for that to happen. Like, I get what we needed to do to understand that Kane is inside the New Republic and doing all that kind of stuff, but we kind of needed a little bit more kind of connection to get there for at least my tastes. But do I think this is a great episode? Yes. A lot of plot and story stuff went very well. It honed in, and we got a lot of character development. We got a lot of kind of cool different kind of things going on, and I can't wait to see where the season finale goes. Though I think it's got a lot of work to do, and I hope it's able to pull it off, so that way we can see where this goes. I don't know exactly if there's plan for season 4, or if the rest of the Mandoverse kind of shows will kind of deal with that before culminating in Dave Filoni's recently announced Mandoverse culminating, concluding movie. It's kind of a weird kind of thing. I don't know if that's going to go just to theaters. I know it'll eventually come to Disney+, but we'll kind of have to see how that goes on. There's a lot of things announced for Star Wars that are very interesting, and I did see the Ahsoka trailer, and god damn, that looks pretty fucking cool. So, that's got me more excited than what I was with the Book of Boba Fett. Now, granted, I was like, hey, Boba Fett, let's see what this goes on. I was like, fuck. Again, more down to execution than anything. But I enjoyed this, and I can't wait to see where we go to next. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.